Welcome to the instructional video for Anachrony. Welcome to the future. The world has changed. It is the 26th century, and New Earth is slowly recovering from the day of purgation. The day a mysterious, catastrophic explosion shook the entire planet. The majority of the population was exterminated, and most of the surface became uninhabitable. The remnants of humanity organized along four radically different ideologies called paths. Their only meeting point is the capital, the last independent city on Earth, led by a global governing body called the World Council. Many years later, explorers discovered a rich seam of an unknown substance at the desolate ground zero of the Day of Purgation. This durable and light neutronium, as they named it, proved excellent as building materials. But they also discovered one other thing that neutronium could do. When exposed to energy, it could open time rifts from the future. These time rifts allowed humans to talk to their future selves, and the future selves told them about a devastating impact of an asteroid, and it was the impact from that asteroid that transferred back in time massive amounts of energy, which caused the Day of Purgation. In the game Anachrony, you are the leader of one of New Earth's ideological paths: harmony, dominance, progress, or salvation. Your ultimate goal is to prepare for the upcoming asteroid impact, secure the future of your people, and to overcome the other three paths as the dominant ideology in shaping humanity's future. The game is played through 7 rounds, called eras, each symbolizing several years. After the 4th era, the impact occurs, which changes gameplay. One era of play constitutes 6 phases: preparation phase, paradox phase, power-up phase, warp phase, action phase, and then cleanup phase. In the preparation phase, you advance the focus markers on the timeline. You reveal the super project that is associated with that given era. You refresh buildings, determine workers that are available, and resources that are available. In the picture, you see that we are currently in the 4th era. We are about to have the impact is the next step. The blue squares above each timeline, those are the super projects. And then as you'll see later, those little triangle icons that we have, those are resources from the future. Phase 2 is the paradox phase, which from left to right, the player with the most warp tokens in any given era rolls the paradox dice, which has the red triangles on them. For every red triangle that or paradox that the player rolls, you receive a paradox token. 3 paradox tokens equals an anomaly. Anomalies are worth negative points at the end of the game. The next step is to power up any exosuits that you might want to use during the action phase. You have on your player board 6 launch hexes to which you might power up your exosuits. The first 3 are considered free, but every one after that costs an energy core. At the end of the power-up phase, any spaces left blank produces a water for you. Next is the warp phase, where you can choose to request 0, 1, or 2 resources from your future self. Players hide these tiles in their hand, reveal them simultaneously, and then immediately receive any resources. So in this case, the blue player receives 1 engineer, the green player receives a scientist, yellow and red both receive 1 uranium. Next comes the action phase, which beginning with the starting player, each player may take 1 action, may place 1 worker, either on the main board or on your player board. If you are playing a worker on the main board, they must be in a suit, and it must be a suit that you powered up. If you didn't power up enough suits during the power-up phase, then the remaining workers cannot leave your player board. The actions that you may take on the main board include recruiting new workers, researching breakthroughs which are necessary for building super projects, constructing new buildings and super projects, both of which will be placed on your player board, using the mine to retrieve resources, to receive water, or trade with the nomads. On your player board, workers might activate buildings or super projects, or supply water to their sleepy other workers. Then there are some free actions that you might take. These are not counting as your main action, and often buildings or your leaders have free actions that are used that you can see with like their circle icons as opposed to the worker icons. The construction action is where you build buildings, and the cost of the building is on your player mat. So if everybody is playing side A, everybody has actually the same resource cost for any given resource, and you just see that you build them left to right. So in this case, to build a power plant, it would cost you 2 neutronium, 2 titanium, and 2 water, which is the sort of the top level. But if you're looking at the to play a red building, you would need 1 uranium, 2 titanium, and 1 water. And in that case, both of the yellow buildings, you can see those are worker icons. The leftmost blue building, that circle is a free space, and then the rightmost red icon is an ongoing benefit. So in this case, that lab would give you a +2 time shift whenever you were using a power plant. If you were constructing a super project, the cost is on the super project tile itself, not the board, but the project will be placed on your board, and they take up 2 spots. If you're using a power plant, and this is important for a game that's dealing with time travel, your worker takes the power plant action, which is, a standard action, and then you move the focus on the timeline. In this case, the Path of Harmony has moving its focus from the current 4th era back to the 2nd era. Then the Harmony player may, if they wish, spend the cost to remove 1 warp token. In this case, they may pay 1 neutronium to remove the warp token that is on era 2. This is also important because then it bumps up the time travel track, which is worth victory points at the end of the game. It also means that during the subsequent paradox phases, that Harmony may roll less than before. If you're taking a mine action, place your suited worker on one of the 3 hexes and take the resource that is associated with that space. So in this case, the uranium is in the 1st slot, gold in the 2nd, titanium in 3rd. So this player decides that he's going to take the top space, which gives him the uranium. And then the green player also gets to choose 1 from the left-hand side. So, so whenever you mine, you use 2 spots. It's also important to, under the mine icon, you can see left to right, you've got scientist, engineer, and then administrator. The eyeball icon next to the engineering indicates that an engineer who takes the mine action remains motivated. That means that during the cleanup phase, the workers remains awake as opposed to being tired. The supply action is on your board, and it requires a worker to spend water equal to your morale, and the morale track is on your player board. You spend the water, and you wake up any tired workers into the active column. An administrator can do this and maintain motivation. This is also important because every time you supply water to your workers, you increase their morale, and where you stand on the morale track gives you VP at the end of the game. After the fourth era, the asteroid hits Earth, and the World Council is in shambles. This changes gameplay in a few ways. The first is it opens up a new spot on the main board in which you can evacuate the World Council. If you have met your evacuation conditions, and every faction has a different set of conditions, you will not only receive victory points for evacuating the World Council, but you can receive bonuses for achieving certain things at that point too. Again, this is all asymmetrical. One of the downsides of the impact is that 2 of your launch hexes are destroyed, meaning that you can send out fewer exosuits, and those that you do send out basically have to cost you cores. Also, the World Council and capital hexes are collapsing, meaning that once somebody takes that action, after they are removed from it, that space collapses, and nobody else can use that space. It also means that the game ends when all the hexes on the board collapse. After the capital has completely fallen, or we have finished 7 eras, final scoring happened. The player with the most victory points is declared winner, and you can obtain victory points through buildings and super projects. Anomalies are negative points, by the way. Your time travel and morale tracks both grant you victory points, and any warps that you still have on your timeline are considered penalties. Research breakthroughs earn you points, as do any victory point tokens that you may have, and then any endgame condition cards. There are always 5, and usually they're worth 3 apiece, for example, having the most workers or having the highest morale. That's the end. I hope you enjoyed this.